Gretchen, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I thought I would focus on those out there who haven't quite done a full-on dive into the world of piercings. Maybe they've kind of dipped their toes in the water, but they haven't gone all out with piercings. But they're there going, where do I even start? Like, what is a good first piercing that I should try? So I was thinking about that, and I was like, that's a good question. What is a good first piercing? Like, there are the ones that we've come to know as being good first piercings, but are they actually good first piercings? You know? So for today's video, I thought I would hit on 5 piercings that I feel are good starter ones. Like, you are just getting into the world of piercings and you need a place to start. I feel these 5 are gonna be your best bet. Now, I can tell you that most people probably won't agree with me on one of them, and most people won't agree with me on me leaving off a particular piercing, but I do have my reasoning for both. You'll just have to wait and see. So number 1 on my list is one that most people are probably gonna say is a good starter one, and that is the lobe piercing. Pretty much everyone starts off with a lobe piercing. I personally have never come across anyone who went straight for a cartilage piercing and skipped their lobes. However, I'm sure people have done that. I just personally don't know any. But I feel like those of us who do get into piercings have all started with our lobes. And that's because it's a relatively easy piercing to care for, to heal, to get done. Pain-wise, it is not that bad at all. Healing-wise, pretty short time frame on how long it takes to heal. It's not cartilage, so it's not going to give you the same issues that a cartilage piercing might, hopefully. This is a pretty standard piercing. Anyone who's gotten a piercing usually has this one done and knows how to handle it. So you're going to find a lot of resources online regarding this specific piercing. The lobe piercing also offers you the opportunity to swap out the jewelry for a variety of different styles. You know, you can have studs, you can have hoops, you can have stretched lobes, you can have a variety of things in a lobe piercing. And it's also a pretty good way to just dip your toes into the water of the piercing world. Like, if you are genuinely interested in getting more, I feel like the lobe piercing is a very good jumping off point. Again, it's gonna get you acclimated to what aftercare process entails for a piercing while not being the lengthy amount of time that you're gonna find with a cartilage piercing. Lobe piercings are widely accepted as well. You're gonna find a lot of people who have piercings pretty much have a lobe piercing. So this is a great starter piercing for anyone interested. Next is probably on anyone's list for starter piercings, the Helix. And that's any piercing that takes place on the outer cartilage of your ear. It is the outer upper part of your ear, so up in this area. The Helix is a relatively simple piercing. Much like the lobe, it's widely accepted. You're gonna find plenty of people have at least one Helix done. The great thing about Helix piercings is that you have all this space here to pick exactly where you want it to go. It's not really confined to one specific area. As long as it's up in this space, that's considered a Helix. I also consider the Helix piercing an easy access one, meaning you're not gonna have to like finagle to clean it. It's out there in the open. You can clean it pretty easily. You're not gonna run into as many issues with just a plain old Helix piercing as you might with other cartilage piercings. That's not to say that you won't run into those problems. Just saying those are more likely to happen with other piercings. Just saying that's most likely going to happen with other piercings and not necessarily with Helix ones. But again, never say never. And to me, much like lobe piercings are a good like dipping your toes in the water type of piercing, Helix piercings are a good stepping stone into the world of cartilage piercings, because there is a little bit more care and understanding when it comes to cartilage piercings, but a Helix one is a relatively easy one to get started with. Much like I feel like most people have a lobe piercing, if they're gonna get further into piercings, I feel like a good portion have that Helix piercing. So next up, I feel the Tragus piercing is a pretty good starter piercing for those that are new to it. Now, I know that there are people who have had problems with their Tragus piercings before. I am one of them. But I feel like the Tragus piercing is a relatively simple cartilage choice, much like the Helix, but it is a little bit more unique. It's not that standard up in the upper cartilage area. It's a little bit more centered. It's in this little area right here. If you're unaware, it's the little triangle that covers your ear canal. It's still relatively easy access, meaning I feel it's one of the easier ones to clean because it's not hidden within the ear. It is still on the outside of the ear. This also is not an over-the-top cartilage piercing, unlike Rook or the Doth, but it's still a little bit more unique than, say, a Helix piercing. Not saying that a Helix piercing can't be unique. Just saying the Tragus is a little bit different. And again, this one I feel is a little bit easier to clean just because it is not hidden within the ear. It is out in the open. The one thing you do need to remember about the Tragus piercing is if you wear earbuds or AirPods or anything like that, you're not gonna be able to wear them for a while because that's right in there. And if you put something in there and it presses against the jewelry, that's when you're gonna start running into some problems. But that's my only like little asterisk that I would put with that one is if you're gonna need to wear that type of technology, you know, headphones, something like that, you might wanna avoid that just because it's best to not wear it for the healing process. Moving on to my fourth choice, and this one I feel like some people are going to disagree with me, mostly because I feel like I'm one of the only people that's ever had an easy time with this piercing, and that is the Conch piercing, or Conch as people continue to correct me on. I swear I can't win on the internet, I'm constantly getting corrected. So to me, the Conch piercing is a relatively easy cartilage piercing to heal. I had an easy time with it. I know a lot of people do not, but hear me out on this one. Like the Tragus and like the Helix, it is an easy access piercing to clean. It's out in the open, it's right here on the outside of the ear, very simple to get to. Unlike the Tragus piercing, the Conch does not get in the way of AirPods, earbuds, if you really want to wear those. It is far enough out of the way that it's not going to hinder it. For me, I feel like the Conch piercing is one of those cartilage piercings that's going to help you learn how to care for a cartilage piercing. Much like the Helix piercing, because the Conch is easier to get to, it's pretty easy to see all angles of it. Like if you really need to see back there, you can bend the ear over to see. That's why I feel like if you are truly trying to get more piercings and really dive into the world of piercings, the Conch is a good one because it helps you understand what exactly is needed for aftercare. It's an easy one to handle. Again, I know that I had an easy time with mine. A lot of people did not, but because it is more open, it's a lot easier to see and kind of look at to see if anything is irritating it. You also get some pretty cool jewelry options in there. I personally can't wear a hoop in mine just because hoops and I don't get along, but I've seen hoops and Conch piercings before and they look incredible. I'm also just partial to a Conch piercing. All right, so my fifth choice on this list, and I have a feeling people are gonna be like, oh, she's gonna say the nostril piercing. And that's where I feel like some people are really gonna disagree with me because the nostril piercing is not on my list, but I do have reasons for it. But first, I'm gonna tell you what I do think is the fifth one that's great for a starter, and that's the septum. Bear with me. So there are a variety of reasons why I feel like the septum piercing is a great starter piercing. One, the healing time is not that bad. It's pretty short. Because it's not going through cartilage, it's going through your sweet spot, which is not cartilage. Septum piercing should not be done through cartilage. So the healing time is not nearly as long as if it were going through cartilage, like a nostril piercing. So with a septum piercing, the great thing about it is if you need to hide it, you can. You can hide a septum piercing pretty easily, depending on the jewelry that you have in there, which is why it's always good to have horseshoe jewelry as your starter jewelry compared to other types of jewelry, because then you can flip it up if you need to. Now you shouldn't be flipping it up often while it's healing. However, flipping it up twice a day, that's what I did, shouldn't do any harm to it. Everyone's different. Everyone's gonna experience something different. I'm going based off of my own experience as well as what I've heard from others. I also find that the septum piercing is not as painful to get done as other piercings. So it makes it less nerve-wracking, less scary to get done, because I know a lot of people are gonna be like, I want to get this done, but I'm afraid of the pain. So because the septum piercing is going through soft tissue and not cartilage, it's not nearly as painful as if it were going through cartilage. That's why I feel like a septum is a really good one, because its ability to hide it if necessary, shorter healing time to deal with, and it's not nearly as painful as other ones. That's why I feel like the septum is one of those 5 that is a great starting point for those trying to get into the world of piercings. So I know people are sitting there going like, Gretchen, you didn't mention nostril piercings on your list. Everyone gets a nostril piercing as like one of their first piercings. Why didn't you mention it? I have reasons. My first reason is that nostril piercings are prone to piercing bumps. More often than not, you're gonna find people who ran into issues with their nostril piercings developing a bump. That's because they're more prone to bumps because nostril piercings are open to the elements, which means that there are constant irritants happening with it. So I feel like if you are not well versed on aftercare for a piercing, as well as how to handle a piercing bump, that's why nostril piercings are not a good starting point for someone, because they don't have that knowledge or understanding of what is actually needed in order to care for a piercing bump for it to go down, and what kind of aftercare is needed. Now, learning how to deal with a piercing bump as well as learning the proper aftercare does come with time and experience, but I know people can get very frustrated, especially when it's on your face. Like the piercing bump on your face. It's one thing if it's on your ear, you can just take your hair, cover it, not as noticeable. But when you have a piercing bump on your face, you can't really cover that. And if you do try and cover it with, say, makeup, that makes it worse. So that's why I feel like the nostril piercing isn't that great of a first piercing or a starter piercing, an initial piercing. I know it is one of the most common first piercings next to lobes and a helix piercing, but because of it being prone to bumps and people just not knowing how to care for that correctly and properly, that's why I just don't feel like nostril is the route you should go until you've learned a little bit more and experienced a little bit more. You know, once you've learned the proper aftercare procedures, then yes, I think a nostril piercing is great. But because it can be a little bit startling to see that bump pop up, also everyone always wants to start with a hoop in their nostril piercing. We know how I feel about hoops, especially as starter jewelry. But that's another video entirely. So these are the 5 piercings that I feel are great for someone new to piercings, new to the world of piercings, wanting to take that next step and get in piercings. That's why I feel like these 5 are great starting points. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my list. What list would you create? Do you agree or disagree with me on the nostril piercing reasoning? I'm sure there are gonna be plenty of people that definitely don't agree with me. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Also, let me know in the comments below what your first piercing was. I want to know if someone got a helix piercing before they got their lobe pierced. I hope someone out there did. I kind of want to know. But let me know what your first few piercings were. Drop them in the comments below. Also, if you don't have any piercings or you only have 1 or so, what are you looking at getting done, if anything? Special thank you to my patrons. You can help support the channel on Patreon while having access to videos early, viewing patron-only content, and more. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big old thumbs up. Going down there, hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that notification bell so you can know when I upload next. But until next time, bye all!